So Malcolm Brown, and this didn't make a lot of news, but he was their second back. He's their power back. He got moved to Miami. So now they don't have the wiggle, the explosive back, nor do they have their power back. And remember, McVay's offense is really like Kyle Shanahan's offense. We think of them as high-flying and explosive and dynamic. They're based on a strong running game. So now the Rams suddenly have no depth at running back, no number one running back. They also lost their number 2 tight end, Gerald Everett, to Seattle. Their defensive coordinator is now the Chargers head coach. Their passing game coordinator is now the Seahawks offensive coordinator. They lost Michael Brockers to Detroit. They lost Malcolm Brown, didn't make news, to Miami. And they lost their top safety, John Johnson, to Cleveland, and their third corner, Troy Hill, to Cleveland. So the headline, the big headlines, Matt Stafford and the Rams. Totally headline worthy. But just say it out loud. They just lost their number 1 running back for the year, their number 1 power back, their number 2 tight end, their number 1 safety, their number 3 corner, their defensive coordinator. Oh, yeah, their center, Austin Blythe. He's gone now, too. You know, we think of the Cowboys as dysfunctional and not a Super Bowl contender. We think of the Rams as highly functional and a Super Bowl contender with a great coach. But they're a lot closer than you think. They've got a handful of high-end stars and very little depth. And right now, the Rams, they've got 3 stars. Jalen Ramsey's a great corner, a little temperamental, but a great corner. Aaron Donald's the best defensive lineman in football, and Matt Stafford's great. And they are now not as good at center, not as good at running back, not quite as deep in the secondary, not as good at safety. They lost a super bright defensive coordinator. Maybe the Cowboys and the Rams are not that different. A lot of high-end players, not a lot of depth, and 1 or 2 injuries from being a non-playoff team. Joy with the news.
No.
Turn on the news. This is the Herdline News.
This is why you have amendments to your predictions.
Now, this will be an amendment. Like, I'm not saying, we know it's always the drip, 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 the water faucet thing we always talk about. You can lose a star like Aaron Donald. You're not the same team. But you start little bits and pieces, and all of a sudden it's like, yeah, they're not 11-6. They're probably 10-7. And in that division,
that's not good enough.
Is Cam Akers in that division worth 1 win? Eating the clock. That's what I said this morning. Yes, absolutely. He's worth 1 win, especially when you consider Malcolm Brown's gone. Now you're in disarray at running back, and Sean McVay's offense, we see it as high-flying. It's really like Kyle Shanahan. It starts with a power running game.
So the Suns are facing a win-or-go-home Game 6 against the Bucks tonight. They've lost 3 straight after going up 0-2 in the series, but Chris Paul still feels good about the situation his team is in tonight.
Which everybody been saying, if you went to the beginning of the season and said we had a chance to be where we are right now, would you take it? Absolutely. Absolutely. And we get a chance to determine the outcome. It's not like the game is going to be simulated or somebody else got to play. We get a chance. We control our own destiny. So I think that's the exciting part about it.
It's a good mentality to go into an elimination game with.
I mean, let's be honest. We all like Milwaukee tonight. It feels like it's not just that they won, but it's like every game.
They have the momentum.
And Phoenix is looking smaller.
Mm-hmm.
But what if tonight Mikal Bridges or Jay Crowder are hot? Remember, the Suns led by 9 points against Milwaukee the last time they were in Milwaukee in the 4th.
Yeah.
So and even as much as Milwaukee dominated them in Phoenix, it's a very close game down the stretch. So these two teams, Milwaukee's not the kind of team that generally shoots the lights out and has one of those warrior runs for 8 minutes where you're like, all right, we're down by 32.
Right.
Like, you can be dominated by Milwaukee and trail by 8. I mean, they are just it's a different kind of domination.
That's what I really don't know what my prediction is tonight. Fox Bet has the Bucks favored by 5.
I like Milwaukee.
That feels like a lot for an elimination game.
But, it's interesting. 4 and 5 has been kind of the number the last several games. So, again, if the Kansas City Chiefs, I told you, played a perfect first half, you'd be like, oh, they're up 28-7, right? But there are certain teams in football that they could dominate you. They're not going to light the scoreboard up. The Bucks can literally physically dominate a half and be up by, right?
No, they're not going to blow you out.
No, the Shaq Kobe Lakers have a great.
They might cover at the end of the game,
right.
but they're not going to blow you out through the course of the game.
You can shoot
and
your
it's never
way.
going to feel out of reach.
And Phoenix is the kind of team that can shoot their way back into games. Crowder shoots a lot of threes, and Chris Paul at the mid-range, and Booker's obviously a star scorer, so you can hang around Milwaukee and be outplayed.
Booker is the least of my concerns. They're going to need a big game from Ayton tonight, and they're going to need a significant contribution from Chris Paul with minimum mistakes to win this game. Like, I'm not counting the Suns out tonight. I think it's going to be a good game. I predicted it goes 7. It's an uphill battle for the Suns. All the momentum is with the Bucks. They're feeling good. They've been playing more physical. Giannis is unstoppable. So make the adjustments it takes to work around that, and everybody's got to have a big game. I think you talked about this before. You know, to the way that Chris Paul said that Monty phrased it. Would you take this opportunity? If at the beginning of the season I told you this is where you're going to be, would you take that? Of course you would. Like you said, like with your kids. If I told you when we first had kids, you and Ann, like this is where the kids were going to end up, would you take it? Yes, of course you would.
Yes.
Like this is a great scenario to be in. It feels desperate, but you're in an elimination game 6. Generally, somebody is. So take advantage of the situation. It's up to you.
Joy, the Bucks have not won since 1971. Is it possible tonight, Milwaukee on the cusp of a championship?
All the pressure's on Milwaukee right now.
Gets tight, and in the last 6 minutes, everybody's on the edge of their seat, and the Suns are playing with house money, get hot from 3, and steal one. Absolutely.
So the Cowboys head out to California as they prepare for their training camp this week to begin. And they've got a lot of eyes on them, especially since they're going to be featured on Hard Knocks this season. And Stephen Jones is excited for things to get started. He said, we're pumped up. All these things leading up to the season are huge. Obviously, our world has been through a lot with the pandemic. You can't just assume you're going to flip the switch and everything is going to be fine. We feel a lot of buildup, including Hard Knocks, is a good thing to get people fired up about reconnecting and rolling. They went 6-10 in McCarthy's first season as a head coach, and they've missed the playoffs the last 2 seasons. You have them at 9-8 this season, with Washington at 10-7, Giants at 8-9, and the Eagles 4-13.
Listen, sometimes the advantage is where you play, and they play in a division where the Eagles are completely in rebuild mode. The Giants aren't, but don't know if their quarterback's good, and Washington's got the best defense, but we are looking at Ryan Fitzpatrick. Is this the 9th team in 17 years? So that's why Cam Akers to the Rams feels like a staggering loss because of that division. Dallas has massive questions on defense. Rams defense was number 1 in the NFL. The Cowboys was the worst in terms of points allowed, and you would not be shocked if they won the division.
No, I wouldn't be shocked if they won the division.
No.
I actually think they will win the division.
No.
While I do like the momentum that Washington has built, the foundation that Ron Rivera has brought into there, the culture he's brought in there, their defense is incredible. I'm sorry, we all like Ryan Fitzpatrick. I don't trust him as the everyday starting quarterback in Washington. I understand this is the division, but I don't understand that move.
Right.
It's obviously not a long-term move.
Right.
Ron Rivera felt like maybe they have some plans they're going to attack next year. I think they're going to be too good to be in a situation to draft a quarterback.
Yeah.
Regardless, I could see Dak coming back and having a huge year and compensating for what the defense is not, especially in this division. But they do have a lot going on right now. You have Dak coming back. You have that defense. What's going on with McCarthy? You have Hard Knocks. Everyone is still dealing with the pandemic. It's a lot. But one thing the Cowboys always are is interesting. So Tom Brady has said he wants to play until 45 many times. He's just a couple weeks away from turning 44. And his trainer, Alex Guerrero, believes that Brady is still on track to hit that goal.
I mean, I expect him to play this year and next year. I try to keep his body 3 years ahead of where we're going to be. So I'm thinking about not just next year, but I'm thinking about, well, what if they feel so good at 45, he wants to play at 46? I don't know. So I better plan. To think about how I need to get his body prepared for 46 or 47. Like, I don't know. It might be 45. It might be 44. But I just know that I want to hold up my end of the bargain of working hard to support his goal of playing to 45.
Well, his contract is through age 45. So he has 2 years left on his contract.
It may very well come down to how does this season end. If it ended with an injury, if it ended ugly, maybe
I think if it doesn't end with an injury, I could see him playing through this.
Yeah.
He's a goal guy. He takes care of his body. So it's never been, I've never been in the camp of like Tom Brady is done. I've always felt like that was a huge waste of time. I think people are going to start talking about that with LeBron as well. And I think that's also a waste of everyone's breath. These are the two athletes in our lifetimes that, for the most part, have been